What if your favorite blue jeans were considered a threat to national security, or wearing the wrong color could get you executed? For most of human history, your closet has been a legal minefield, governed by some of the most bizarre rules imaginable. We're about to expose the absolute dumbest, most hilarious, and downright baffling laws ever created for clothing and fashion. You're about to see your wardrobe in a much weirder light. 1. To most of the world, blue jeans are just pants. But in North Korea, they're considered a weapon of cultural warfare. For decades, the regime has treated denim as a symbol of Western decay, banning them as a form of anti-socialist corruption. This isn't a simple dress code. It's a paranoid government's attempt to insulate its people from the outside world by outlawing a piece of fabric. Imagine a country where putting on a pair of Levi's is an act of political rebellion. 2. The iconic black and white striped prison uniform wasn't just a cheap design, it was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Introduced in the 1820s, the jarring pattern was intended to obliterate an inmate's sense of self. But its true genius was practical. The stripes made an escapee stick out like a sore thumb against any natural background, effectively turning the public into a massive search party. It was a uniform designed to be a wearable cage. 3. Picture this. It's 1795, Great Britain is broke from fighting France, and the government needs cash, fast. Their brilliant idea? Go to war with fashion. They slapped a hefty annual tax on the hair powder, essential for the aristocracy's giant, white wigs. Suddenly, that symbol of status became a taxable liability. The result was a fashion apocalypse. Men almost overnight abandoned the powdered look, effectively letting the taxmen, not the tastemakers, dictate the style of an entire era. 4. There's a 700-year-old law in the United Kingdom that strictly prohibits members of parliament from showing up to work in a suit of armor. Enacted in 1313, its goal was to stop nobles from settling arguments with a broadsword. But you have to admire the potential. Forget a passionate speech. Imagine a politician filibustering a new tax bill while decked out in full-plate mail. This dusty old rule is the only thing preventing modern political debates from becoming actual medieval combat. And yes, it is still in effect. 5. The resort town of Wildwood, New Jersey, looked at modern fashion trends and said, absolutely not. In 2013, they enacted an ordinance that officially bans saggy pants on their boardwalk. If your trousers hang more than 3 inches below your hips, revealing skin or underwear, you're breaking the law. It's a fascinatingly specific attempt to legislate a vacation vibe. While the rest of the country debates big issues, Wildwood is on the front lines, defending public decency from the menace of visible boxer shorts. 6. You know that classic blue and white striped shirt, the symbol of Parisian chic? It turns out it was originally a piece of 19th century military tech. A French naval regulation from 1858 dictated the exact number of stripes on a sailor's shirt, not for style, but for survival. The bold pattern made it drastically easier to spot a man who had fallen overboard. So that trendy shirt isn't saying, "I'm fashionable," it's screaming, "I'm a human buoy, please rescue me." 7. In the gorgeous town of Carmel by the Sea, California, a woman technically needs a permit to wear high heels, specifically any heel over 2 inches high with a base smaller than a square inch. But this isn't some puritanical crackdown. It's a stroke of bureaucratic genius. The city passed the law to protect itself from lawsuits from people tripping on its famously uneven, tree-root-buckled sidewalks. You can get your lifetime high heel permit for free at City Hall, happily signing away your right to sue. 8. The early 20th century was a time of deep anxiety about beach bodies. A 1917 ordinance in America, for instance, demanded that men's swimsuits feature a skirt effect, a modest little fabric flap to hide their scandalous male form. Some beaches even had cops armed with measuring tapes to ensure suits weren't shrinking to indecent sizes. Just try to picture a tough, handlebar mustached guy from the 1910s being forced by law to wear what was essentially a swim miniskirt. 9. In Tempe, Arizona, a law from its pioneer days made it a crime for women to wear pants. This wasn't just an old suggestion, it was on the books. The statute was completely forgotten, a fossil of a bygone era, until a group of female city employees unearthed it in the 1970s. They humorously threatened a pantsuit protest, promising to revert to dresses until the council officially killed the ridiculous, outdated rule. It was a quiet, polyester-fueled revolution. 10. In early 20th century Chicago, the city declared war on a specific type of women's footwear: patent leather shoes. The official reason? City leaders feared the glossy, reflective surface could provide men with an improper funhouse mirror glimpse of a woman's underwear. This wasn't just about decency, it was about applied optical physics. It is the only known instance in legal history where a shoe was treated as a weapon of accidental voyeurism. 11. In Louisiana, there is a law in the books that makes it illegal to wear a fake beard while you are beekeeping. This is one of those statutes so wonderfully specific, it smells like a bizarre backstory. We are left to wonder about the unsolved crime that prompted it. Was there a rash of honey heists committed by disguised apiarists? Did a false mustache once trigger a bee riot? It remains one of America's great unanswered legal mysteries. 12. For over a decade, a British man named Stephen Guff, aka the Naked Rambler, waged a one-man war against the very concept of clothing. He believed it was his fundamental right to be nude in public, and tested that theory by walking the entire length of Great Britain without a stitch on. This resulted in a comical and relentless loop of arrests, jail time, and more naked walking. His protest forced the courts to ask a wild question: is getting dressed a basic rule of society, or is it the ultimate violation of personal freedom? 13. In Victorian England, grief wasn't just an emotion, it was a performance with a brutally strict script dictated by fashion. A widow's mourning period could last 2.5 years, beginning with full mourning in lifeless, non-reflective black fabrics. From there, she could slowly graduate to second mourning, introducing thrilling new colors like gray or lavender. The system was so complex and unforgiving that an entire industry popped up just to help people wear their sadness correctly, lest they make a fatal social error. 14. After crushing the Jacobite Rebellion in 1745, the British government figured the most dangerous weapon in the Scottish Highlands wasn't a sword, it was the kilt. The Dress Act of 1746 made it a serious crime for any man or boy to wear tartan or traditional Highland dress. This wasn't about fashion, it was cultural assassination by law. The penalty was severe. A first offense got you 6 months in jail. A second? Enjoy a 7-year, one-way ticket to a penal colony. It was a war waged not on an army, but on a wardrobe. 15. Welcome to Heian-era Japan, where getting dressed was less about fashion and more like defending a doctoral thesis. Noble women wore a 12-layer robe called the junihito, but the real test was the color combinations. An absurdly intricate system of rules dictated the precise shades of every single layer based on the season, the event, and even the flowers currently in bloom. A mistake wasn't just a faux pas, it was seen as a catastrophic failure of your intellect and character, leading to complete social annihilation. 16. Long before every Brooklyn barista had a perfectly manicured beard, the Puritans of 17th century Massachusetts saw facial hair as a gateway to hell. They viewed long hair and beards as signs of vanity and a slippery slope toward moral chaos. While not a colony-wide ban, many towns passed their own strict regulations, slapping men with fines for excessive growth. They believed a beard wasn't a style choice. It was an open rebellion against God. One can only imagine their horror at the modern concept of beard oil. 17. In the South Korean military, the rules of engagement extend to a soldier's sideburns. Official regulations state they can be no longer than 3 centimeters and must be trimmed at a perfect 90-degree angle. This isn't about looking sharp, It's about enforcing absolute discipline down to the millimeter. In this world, an unruly tuft of hair is treated as a potential threat to national security. It's an army where your cheekbone geometry is as important as your marksmanship. 18. In ancient Rome, the color purple wasn't just expensive, it was a capital crime for anyone but the emperor to wear it. The dye, painstakingly extracted from thousands of sea snails, was worth more than gold, and sumptuary laws protected it with deadly force. Wearing an all-purple toga without being the emperor wasn't just a fashion misstep, it was an act of treason punishable by death. Forget designer labels. This was the original drip you could literally die for. 19. In Rwanda, a government campaign to uphold cultural values led to the arrests of women for the crime of wearing miniskirts. The crackdown was presented as a defense of tradition, but photos of women being detained by police for showing their knees triggered a massive public backlash. It was a bizarre case of law enforcement becoming the literal fashion police, attempting to measure a nation's morality one hemline at a time. 20. In the early 1900s, going to a movie theater meant entering a war zone. The enemy? The person sitting in front of you and their colossal hat. Women's headwear had become enormous, gravity-defying structures adorned with ribbons, feathers, and occasionally, an entire taxidermied bird. In response, cities across America passed hat ordinances, making it illegal to wear view-obstructing hats in theaters. It was a landmark victory for audiences everywhere, a law that finally declared your hat is not the star of the show. 21. In Malaysia, the simple act of choosing a t-shirt can make you a political dissident. When a massive pro-democracy movement adopted the color yellow for its protests, the government responded by making it illegal to wear yellow clothing associated with the group. Just like that, a primary color was declared an enemy of the state. It created a bizarre reality where your bright, cheerful shirt could be interpreted as an act of sedition, turning your morning wardrobe choice into a high-stakes political statement. 22. In the early 20th century, America was terrified of a skirt. The hobble skirt was a fashion trend so absurdly restrictive, so tight around the ankles, that it forced women to take tiny, shuffling steps. While it was never formally banned, it caused chaos for public infrastructure. Transit companies in major cities had to physically add a lower step to their streetcars because women wearing the skirts literally could not raise their legs high enough to get on board. It was a piece of fashion so powerful the world had to rebuild itself to accommodate it. 23. In ancient Sparta, clothing wasn't about comfort, it was a weapon of social conditioning. As part of their brutal military training, young Spartan boys were issued a single cloak to wear for the entire year. This was it. Freezing winters, scorching summers, same garment. The goal was to systematically break them down and forge them into hardened soldiers through deliberate, state-mandated suffering. It was a society that treated hypothermia as a core curriculum. 24. In Saudi Arabia, the government once declared war on a toy. It banned certain Barbie-style dolls, labeling them a threat to Islamic values for promoting Western standards of beauty and dress. This wasn't a suggestion. Shops were raided, and dolls were confiscated as contraband. It was a full-blown culture war fought in the toy aisle. Imagine a government so concerned with ideology that it sees a piece of molded plastic in a pink dress as a dangerous foreign agent. 25. If you're packing for a trip to the Caribbean, you might want to rethink those cool camouflage shorts. In several countries, including Barbados and Jamaica, it is illegal for any civilian to wear camouflage print. This isn't a fashion critique. It's a national security issue. The laws exist to prevent any confusion between civilians and actual military personnel. So while you think you're just channeling a relaxed, rugged vibe, the local authorities might see your outfit as a potential act of insurrection. 26. In 2011, France passed a controversial law making it illegal to cover one's face in public. The legislation was widely interpreted as a direct ban on the niqab, the full-face Islamic veil. Supporters framed it as a necessary measure for security and the preservation of secular French values. Opponents condemned it as a direct assault on religious freedom. It remains a powerful modern example of a government targeting a single, specific garment, turning an act of personal faith into a criminal offense. 27. Let's go to Elizabethan England, a time when your closet was controlled by the government. Sumptuary laws were brutally specific, dictating what fabrics, colors, and styles you could wear based on your exact social rank. If you were a commoner caught wearing luxurious silk or a certain type of fur, you could be fined or even thrown in jail. It was a system designed to make class divisions starkly, instantly visible. Suddenly, being able to wear a velour tracksuit to Walmart feels like the pinnacle of human freedom. 28. Under the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, fashion became a tool of unimaginable horror. From 1975 to 1979, the government forced the entire population into a single, mandatory uniform, a plain, black, pajama-like outfit. Any deviation, a splash of color, a piece of Western clothing, even just a memory of a different style, was considered an act of rebellion against the state and was punishable by immediate execution. It is history's most terrifying example of clothing used to erase individuality itself. 29. In 2008, the city of Flint, Michigan, decided to take a stand. Not against economic hardship or infrastructure problems, but against saggy pants. The city council passed an ordinance that made it a crime to wear your pants so low that they exposed your underwear, with violators facing potential jail time. It's a stunning example of legislative priorities, a moment when a town's leaders looked at all their problems and decided the most pressing threat was a teenager's poor relationship with his belt. 30. In Fargo, North Dakota, a bizarre local ordinance makes it illegal to dance while wearing a hat. The law doesn't stop there. It also forbids you from falling asleep with your hat on. You can only imagine the catastrophic hat-related dance party that must have occurred in Fargo's history to necessitate such a specific rule. The city has clearly drawn its line in the sand. You can be footloose, but you better not be fedora loose. 31. In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, a law forbids men from publicly wearing traditional women's clothing, especially anything with bare shoulders. But here's the loophole. Dresses are perfectly fine, as long as they have sleeves. This creates the glorious possibility of men navigating the city in full-length floral gowns, completely within the bounds of the law, as long as their shoulders are covered. It's a masterclass in technically legal, yet deeply confusing fashion compliance. 32. In Dublin, Georgia, a city law makes it illegal to be in public wearing a mask, hood, or any device that hides part of your face. At first glance, it sounds like an absurdly strict anti-Halloween ordinance. But the law's origin is anything but funny. It was passed in the 19th century as a direct legal weapon against the Ku Klux Klan, designed to prevent them from marching and terrorizing people while concealing their identities. It's a rare and powerful instance of fashion policing used for actual good. 33. Back in 2012, the City Council of Shreveport, Louisiana, apparently grew tired of seeing people in their pajamas at the grocery store. So they passed an ordinance making it a crime to wear pajama pants in public, specifically targeting bottoms, obviously designed for sleeping. It was an all-out municipal war on comfort. In Shreveport, the message was clear. You can commit a felony in jeans, but don't you dare buy a gallon of milk in flannel. 34. The city of Barcelona got so tired of tourists treating its ancient Gothic quarter like a beach party, they passed a law in 2011 banning bikinis and shirtless wandering anywhere but the actual seaside. Get caught, and you'll face a hefty on-the-spot fine. It paints a beautiful picture, a tourist, fresh from the Mediterranean, trying to argue the finer points of torso law with a cop while his gelato melts. In Barcelona, a shirt is not just a suggestion, it's a legal requirement. 35. On Réunion, a French island in the Indian Ocean, A government official once proposed a ban on excessively loud flip-flops inside public buildings. The official justification was to prevent the disruption of administrative focus. You have to imagine a tax office driven to the brink of madness by the relentless, percussive slapping of sandals, where a civil servant finally snapped and demanded legislation. It's a world where your choice of footwear can be classified as a weapon of acoustic warfare. 36. In Iran, the state is so deeply invested in your personal appearance that it periodically releases an official, government-approved haircut catalog for men. Decadent. Western styles like ponytails, mullets, or anything involving excessive gel are banned. Barbershops are given posters illustrating the acceptable, modest options. It's the ultimate form of state-sponsored fashion control, a place where the government itself might send you to your room for having the wrong hairstyle. 37. Back in 15th century England, a fashion trend became so obnoxious the government had to intervene. Young, flashy men started attaching small bells to their shoes and clothing, announcing their every move with an incessant jingle. The Parliament of 1463, having reached its collective breaking point, passed a law banning the bells for anyone below the noble class. It was a formal, legislative act to shut down the most annoying people in the kingdom. 38. For centuries, the design of women's clothing has featured a great betrayal: the fake pocket. While men's garments were blessed with deep, functional pockets, women's clothes often had none, or worse, a stitched-shut slit pretending to be one. This wasn't an accident. It was a subtle form of control. Pockets meant independence, a place to carry your own money, keys, or messages. Denying them was a quiet, fabric-based way of maintaining the status quo. 39. If you find yourself in the Italian town of Eboli, keep your public displays of affection in check. A local law makes it illegal to kiss inside a moving vehicle. But the region's legislative quirks don't stop there. On the nearby island of Capri, the mayor once outlawed noisy, wooden-soled clogs, declaring them a threat to public peace. It paints a very specific picture of Italian life. A place where passionate romance is fine, but loud shoes are an unforgivable crime. 40. During the 1970s, South Korean dictator Park Chung-hee launched a moral crusade against Western culture. This resulted in the Law of Decency, which armed police officers with actual rulers to patrol the streets and measure the length of women's miniskirts. If a hemline was found to be more than 20 centimeters above the knee, the wearer could be fined or arrested. It was a literal police state, but instead of fighting crime, they were fighting thighs. 41. An old law in Alabama makes it illegal to wear a fake mustache in church if it causes laughter. This statute has the distinct aroma of a single, legendary prank. You can almost see him, a comedic genius terrorizing the Sunday service week after week with a new, ridiculous mustache, until the exasperated town council was forced to draft a law aimed squarely at shutting down his one-man show. 42. In 13th century France, striped clothing was considered the mark of the devil. It was legally reserved for society's absolute lowest: executioners, jugglers, heretics, and prostitutes. The chaotic pattern was thought to represent disorder and moral corruption. To wear stripes as an ordinary citizen was to brand yourself an outcast. That cute striped sweater in your closet? In medieval Europe, it would have been the equivalent of a giant wearable sign that says, "I'm probably a traitor." 43. During the Protestant Reformation, the city of Geneva was transformed into a strict religious state under the reformer John Calvin. Fashion was one of his primary targets. Lace, jewelry, and bright colors were all banned as signs of sinful vanity. The city's dress code was brutally simple and aggressively beige. It was a society where the greatest fashion crime wasn't wearing a bad outfit, but simply looking like you were enjoying your clothes too much. 44. In the 1940s, the zoot suit was a powerful symbol of identity for young Mexican Americans in Los Angeles. but its extravagant use of fabric during wartime rationing was seen as unpatriotic. This tension erupted into the 1943 Zoot Suit riots, where U.S. servicemen hunted down and brutally attacked young men in the suits, often ripping the clothes right off their bodies. It's a dark reminder that a piece of clothing can be so powerful, people will try to destroy the person wearing it. 45. At the court of France's King Louis XIV, fashion was a weapon, and the king held all the ammo. He created thousands of tiny, maddening rules, like the one about buttons. Courtiers were encouraged to cover their sleeves in expensive, decorative buttons, but only the king was legally permitted to have working buttonholes. It was a subtle, constant flex that said, "You can look rich, but only I have the power to actually fasten my cuffs. Now bow." 46. For over 2 centuries, it was a crime for women in Paris to wear pants. A law from 1800 required any woman wanting to dress like a man to get a special permit from the police. This rule, designed to keep women out of certain jobs, wasn't officially repealed until 2013. Let that sink in. For 2 centuries, every Parisian woman who put on a pair of jeans was, technically, a chic, law-breaking rebel. 47. In the small town of Blythe, California, there is a municipal ordinance that makes it illegal to wear cowboy boots unless you are the registered owner of at least 2 cows. This is not folklore. It's a real law. You cannot simply adopt the aesthetic. You must prove your commitment to animal husbandry. It's the ultimate form of fashion gatekeeping. Forget brand authenticity. In Blythe, the police can legally demand to see your papers of livestock ownership before complimenting your footwear. 48. An old Denver, Colorado ordinance once made it illegal for women to wear grotesque hats in public. The problem? The law never bothered to define what grotesque actually meant, leaving it entirely to the discretion of any police officer on patrol. Your fabulous feathered fascinator could be a showstopper to you, but a misdemeanor to the cop on the corner. It turned personal style into a game of legal roulette. So, from government-approved haircuts to pajamas that could land you in jail, it's clear the law has a long, bizarre history of policing our closets. We've seen dozens of examples of pure legislative madness. But now I need you to be the judge. Out of all the fashion crimes you just heard, which one wins the prize for being the absolute most mind-numbingly dumb of them all? Cast your vote in the comments below, and subscribe for more stories that prove reality is stranger than any fiction.